Where was Jyn Erso's lightsaber? Does she even Jedi, bro? Let's see if we can make it work on All Hail RETCON. In this episode, we're going to review Star Wars Rogue One, and there are going to be a lot of spoilers, so if you haven't watched the movie yet, don't watch this episode. We're going to give a lot of stuff away. As you can see, I'm wearing the Star Trek shirt, so no, I did not like Rogue One. But before you change your channel, hold on. Instead of complaining about what didn't work, I'm going to see if I can make it work. So even if you were a big fan of Rogue One and of Star Wars, please don't change the channel and hear what I have to say. I think you're going to like how I've tweaked certain things. Let's see if we can make it work. Joseph Campbell talks about the hero's journey and the monomyth. And in the monomyth, the hero goes through a variety of things and serves as a template for a lot of classic stories and films that we're familiar with. The hero's journey deals with protagonist, and the protagonist is the character with the most potential for change. So it's not about the hero winning or losing, but it's about how they have changed from the start of the story. We get that with The Hobbit. We get that with Lord of the Rings. We see Bilbo, we see Frodo, we see Samwise. All the characters, although successful at the end of the journey, are very, very different people. One of the important elements of a hero's journey is the starting point, because when the hero returns to the starting point, they return as a different person, and that comparison is what really makes the hero's journey. What are some examples of a very important starting point? Lord of the Rings. The Shire is very, very important to characters like Frodo, Bilbo, Samwise, because when we return to the Shire, they are very, very different people because of their experiences. Experiences have shaped them. Same thing too with the Matrix. When Neo returns to the Matrix because he was born in the Matrix, his perspective is different, his experiences have changed him, and in turn, he changes literally the Matrix in Matrix Revolutions. We see it also in Rocky. Rocky returns to the ring a very different person when he started. It's not about him winning or losing the match, but how people now respect him. Now he has the love of Adrian. Same thing too with Mad Max Fury Road. When Furiosa and Mad Max return to the Citadel, they're very different people, and because they're different, they change the Citadel, they change the nature of everything. So that starting point is very, very important in the hero's journey. Jyn Erso's starting point is not as profound as someone like Luke, who started off at Tatooine, or other characters start off on Coruscant. These planets in the Star Wars universe are so important. So to start off Jyn Erso on a generic planet that we don't return to, I don't think was a very strong choice. It didn't really add to the hero's journey, nor did it add to the mythos of Star Wars. In fact, it felt a little out of genre. Another important element in the hero's journey is the hero receiving a magical artifact. And sometimes this magical artifact can be quite literal or figurative. But in our case, the magical artifacts are very, very literal. Let's go back to Lord of the Rings. Getting the ring for Frodo was a very literal magical object, and that magical object is what propels the hero on their journey. We get that also in King Arthur. Arthur receiving Excalibur propels him on his hero's journey. Oddly enough, Star Wars is filled with characters receiving magical objects. Luke receives the lightsaber, propels him on his magical journey. So Jyn Erso not receiving a magical artifact not only goes against the hero's journey, but also goes against Star Wars mythos. Again, a very strange choice being made. Speaking of Star Wars mythos, one of the things that's very important in the Star Wars mythos is the idea of family lines and atoning for the sins of others. Luke has to atone for the sins of Darth Vader. Han is trying to get Kylo Ren to atone for his sins as well. This is somewhat prevalent in the story because Jyn Erso is trying to redeem his dad, but the dad is never quite evil. In fact, he makes his notions very clear that he's only joining the scientists on the Death Star to try and undermine what they're doing. He's never really portrayed as a Darth Vader type evil. From the very beginning, he's a sympathetic character. Also, Jyn Erso starts off not as a sympathetic character. In fact, she starts off as an apathetic character. She's not really aligned with the Alliance. She's not aligned with the Empire. She's kind of in between and liminal, and just kind of wandering around as some kind of pirate. So the idea of getting her to help out the Alliance is not really that big of a character change because she was never really that invested to begin with. Okay, so how do we make it work? Well, one of the things that the writers said in early drafts of Rogue One was that Jyn Erso's mother was going to be a Jedi. In fact, that scene where Jyn Erso's mother is going to defend Galen, although she whips out a blaster, previous drafts imply that she was whipping out a lightsaber. So, where's Jyn Erso's lightsaber? The writers and producers said they wanted Rogue One to stand apart from Star Wars in a sense that they didn't want to depend heavily on the Force. and other elements like that. And I think that's where they kind of had a misstride. Okay, well, maybe we can't give Jyn Erso a lightsaber, but what can we give her that fits her better into the mythos? Well, we do see some scenes where she is in a flashback with her father, and the father's in full Empire getup. What if she was raised on the Death Star? That seems like a much better point of origin than that random planet. Now, although at the end, the fight isn't on the Death Star itself, at least it gives it more familial and makes it come full circle, especially since she winds up being killed by the Death Star. Throughout the film, Galen is portrayed as a good guy forced to do bad things, but at the end redeems himself by putting that flaw in the Death Star that's exploited later in A New Hope. But what if Galen, from the beginning, was pure evil? What if he embraced the Empire? What if he embraced their ideologies? And they don't need Jyn Erso to kidnap her father or to get information from her father. What if they need Galen Erso to be flipped by Jyn? What if they need her to go on a Death Star and really convince her that what he was doing was wrong and convince him to put that flaw into the Death Star? I think that would have been more compelling. I think that also, too, considering we know the story, I think we need more character development. We're not going to see any sequels to Rogue One because it was already been made. It's called Episode 4. We know what happens. We know how it leads up. So if we know the plot, why don't we focus on the character development? Instead of Jyn having to overcome her apathy and having to overcome her father's devotion to the Empire, would mirror Luke having to have Darth Vader overcome his allegiance to the dark side. I think those comparisons would make it much more aligned with the Star Wars universe and make for more of a compelling movie. One of the things I loved about the film were the Temple Guardians on Jeddah. I think Donnie Yen as a blind warrior monk was amazing, but I still felt that their roles were very, very limited. They are Force sensitive, even though they were not technically Jedis, I guess. The idea of educating Jyn, not necessarily in the ways of the Force, but being Force sensitive and understanding how beautiful and important life is, might give her empathy, it might have her be a little more caring to the world around her, gives the two more meatier roles besides shooting things and hitting people. Yes, although they were important to pushing the plot forward, I was more looking forward to them being catalysts to change for Jyn Erso, that they could actually help her character evolve on her hero's journey. Did I make it work? Well, post your comments below. I'd love to hear from you. If you have any examples of things I can make work, post your comments below and you might see it in a future episode. Hope to see you next week. Like, subscribe, and share. We hope to see you soon on All Hail RETCON.